Yeah. Okay. So, welcome to this Open Thursday, which is called Beyond the Honeymoon. And by this, we mean into the relationship and quite deeper into the relationship, not the beginning when everything is easy peasy and sweet and just all honey. Yeah, but when things get real. And since you are here, but I want to check, I assume that we are on the same page in the sense that we believe that the way that we connect today in our relationships has something to do with how we grew up and how we experienced love as kids. Are we on the same page on this? Okay. Because what we are going to talk about, it's well, not because. What we are going to talk about is focused on the present. The present is the most important, the person with whom we connect today. But we go a little bit in the past, and actually we will start there because it helps us make sense of what happens in the present. And then we talk about what we do there. And I want to say also that what I'm going to share today, to a large extent, is based on a teaching from Christian Amana from the Learning Love Institute. Because, you know, the way we look at what was and what is now in the relationships can be organized in many ways. I just found this one very, very useful because it's simple, and with relationships, simple is good because relationships can be pretty messy and confusing. So simple, and also it's very much about how we grow as persons. So it's not about, well, this happened to me as a child, I missed this, so you have to give it to me now. It's not that. It's how to use our connection, our relationship right now to heal what was, to grow as a person, and to grow as a person that it shows up in every other relationship. And that I mature, I become, yeah, I just, every day I am more, less looking to another person to give it to me. That doesn't mean that we don't enjoy being together, but I'm not like, you need to give it to me. I'm more on my own feet. So, okay. So we start at the very beginning when we come into this life. As children, we have many needs. And these needs are, I found very useful to look at them as in three big groups. And one group is love needs. Love needs. So we come into the world and we want to feel welcome. We have this need to feel welcome and to be talked to in a gentle way, to be looked at with love, it's mostly about being seen and understood and supported and encouraged, heard. So all this, I mean, can you see how this is coming in one big group? Like they have something in common, which is the need for love. There is also, as part of this, is a need to be in tune, like that we connect at a feeling level, that our parents can feel us, know what we feel, also show their feelings, like we are connected at a heart level. So yeah, it's love and connection needs, let's say. And then there is a second group of needs, which actually it's really in time. The love needs are coming in the first month. We are very much into that and needing that from our parents. And they continue, of course, through our life, but a second group comes in, and that is needs for finding ourselves, finding our individuality. So this is the individuality needs or freedom needs, we can also say. And this is where we need to find our preferences, our likes and dislikes. We are all uniques, and we need to discover our uniqueness in life. It's not that we come with the book, this is who Radha is. We discover, and it's a beautiful process when it's allowed. So when parents give us the space to, you know, take our own decisions sometimes and to choose clothes and not always like, this is what you're going to wear today. Or, you know, our time as children is pretty much controlled by our parents, but it's nice to have space and to, as a child, that you are talked to by the parents and explained why we do it like this and not in the other way, and be given some space to contribute to that. And then that's how we feel that we have our own mind, also feelings, to have the space to have our feelings. Our body is also something which needs space and freedom and privacy, and as children many times we don't. Like, parenting today tells us this is like, this is a given, it should be there, but back then when we were growing up, our parents didn't know these things. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I grew up with parents of the generation, you do what I say, you live in my house, my rule is your rule, sorry, about everything. So it's basically the freedom needs are about our body, our mind, that we have the space to think, to find our own solutions, to have our own creativity, about our feelings, that we have the space to feel them, about our energy and time. And whenever these things are crossed, it's an invasion. So I wanted to say, the love needs, when they are not fulfilled, and many times they are not, that's the abandonment wound. That's when we feel left by our parents or just close ones. With the freedom needs, when they are not fulfilled because our mind, our feelings, our energy is not respected, that's invasion. And these are needs very complementary, you know, it's like the love needs is to come together, to merge, to bond with people. The other one is to, well, I also want my space and I want to have my own mind and so on. But we need both in as children and then in life. And then a third group of needs is the needs for feeling worthy. Is to just feel worthy as we are, which mostly comes from being accepted in our family. And sometimes we are not, and it's obvious because we get a lot of criticism, or we are being put down, we are being humiliated, or compared with the, why can't you be more like your brother? It gives a message that something is wrong with me. And even when we don't have that, there is something else which happens. We are accepted, but conditionally. It's like we sense very early in our childhood, oh, I am accepted if I am good in school, if I am an achiever. Or I am accepted if I am the one who always cares. Or the people in this family, the one, oh, you're so good at heart and you're so generous. You're like a grown-up. And as a child, we don't need to be a grown-up. We don't need to be anything. This is how some people become the joker in the family. They need to have something to make people laugh all the time. Or some become the seducer or the seducer. They use seduction to be accepted. And so then what we get is the message that something is wrong with us as we are. And we also get that message that's important also when we are not loved and when we are invaded. A secondary effect is that we feel something is wrong with us. Because as a child, we just cannot imagine that we are brought into this world by these people, by these wonderful people, and then they don't want to listen to us today and tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, like continuously. We understand they cannot be wrong. Something must be wrong with me. And it's the same when we are invaded and when we are told you shouldn't think like this, you shouldn't dress like this. Then again, we feel like, oh, something is wrong with how I think or how I... Yeah. So does it make sense in the sense, like that there are groups, like we can really see the needs as in this? Okay. So with the time is a little bit what I said earlier. We have our program organized by our parents. So we wake up at an hour which might not suit us our rhythm. And then maybe we want to stay at home, but the parents take us to piano lessons. Or we are taken, in summer, we maybe want to spend time with our friends, and then we are taken out in the countryside to be with the grandma, but no kids. So that's about the time, what I can say. And when we grow up in our relationships, it can show up as our partner, that we feel irritated when our partner organizes our time and they say to a friend, like, oh yeah, we're gonna come to visit on Sunday, but they didn't check in with us. Yeah, they organize our time, basically. Yeah. And then with the energy is when we are pushed, it actually can go two ways. It's when we are pushed beyond our energy, when we are pushed to do more than we can. And another way is when our energy is too much for them, and then they tell us, don't jump, don't scream, don't play so much. It's when our energy. Does it make sense? Yeah. So we have these needs, and as we cannot live without these needs being fulfilled, because it's really painful, it's a death. It's like a death for the child. And what we do is that we develop adaptations. And I'm sure you probably heard this in other ways, like coping mechanisms or strategies for survival. Somehow I just call it adaptations because, yeah, it just, for me, it speaks exactly about what happens. We adapt to the situation in the family. And it's not wrong, and it's great actually, because it helped us survive. It's very intelligent of us. One adaptation is to attack, is to become very demanding and screaming, raising the voice. Bullying is one adaptation when there is space, because sometimes parents don't allow for that, but there are in some families enough space with one parent that kids become aggressive. And it can be physical, but it can also be mostly it's verbal. It's like we develop capacity to criticize and to shame other people, and or just to be ironic, not doesn't have to be something outrageous, but irony can cut really deep. So that's attack is one way. And this is a big one. I mean, I think also for men, I'm not, I think, I know, but it's more often with women that we tend to please, that we tend to consider the other first. And even if we don't, speaking of energy, even if we don't have enough energy, we still make energy to make it happen for them. And passive aggressiveness is another one. It's true. Yeah, which usually is the reverse. It's the back of the coin. Yeah. So it's definitely pleasing people. We said aggression, attack. It can also be manipulation. Or you'll be like, look, the Joneses, they did this and it was so nice, and I think it's such a lovely thing to do.
Yeah.
It's actually, I'm trying to say, let's do the same. Another way we try to, well, it's actually all that we said earlier, getting into these roles, becoming the overachiever, becoming the caretaker in the family, the joker. All these roles are part of our adaptations. Also withdrawing, like I'm not gonna talk about this. I'm just withdrawing in my own space, or even if we are in the same space, I am inside. You don't have access to me. Withdrawing. That's also something that we do as an adaptation. And another way is what we are talking about here is actually the classical trauma response. It's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fawn is pleasing. Freeze, we didn't talk about freeze, is that we are there, but we are not there. We just get disconnected. We just get detached. It's like we are not in our body in that moment. Something happens and it's just too much for us. We feel not loved, or we feel like something is wrong with me, and I just freeze. I might smile, but I might be completely disconnected from my body. Yeah. And I might even do things. I might even, perform something, but completely disconnected from the body. And that's freeze. So these are some adaptations. I just want to, because I don't want it to be all talk, talk, talk. And I thought maybe we do just a little bit of a self-reflection, and if that is okay with you, uh, if I guide you just for a few minutes. So just if you feel comfortable, um, just for a few minutes, you can close your eyes, or even if that's too much, just lowering the gaze a little bit and slowly coming inside and slowly, gently bringing the attention to what is now present in the body. And maybe your attention goes to the breath. Mm, maybe it goes to some part of the body which feels really relaxed, and it feels so nice to be there. Or maybe a part of the body which is aching at the moment or feeling a bit tense. That's also okay. And there is no need to change anything, just noticing what is there, just being with what is in the body right now. And being with the body helps us relax a little bit. And as we relax, we can also connect more easily inside. And I'd like to invite you to bring in your mind's eye a relationship which is important for you from the present or from the past. Something, it can be a love relationship, or it can be a close friend or a mentor. And connect with what is happening in this relationship, how you interact day by day, or maybe big events, big moments come up. And um, notice if in that relationship there is something going on as an adaptation. Do you notice yourself sometimes criticizing or making some covered judgments, being ironic, sarcastic? Do you notice yourself giving the silent treatment? Or maybe there is withdrawal, where you shut the other one out. Mm. You just want to be with yourself. It feels like this is too much to handle. I'm not gonna get involved in the drama. Do you see yourself putting the other person needs first, like really making an effort to understand what they want, what they need, um, and then really doing everything to make it happen for them? Maybe do you see yourself smiling when you don't really feel like smiling, or finishing the other person's sentences to help them out, giving advice or help, even when it was not requested? over explaining, that's also one. Or making jokes to loosen the atmosphere. Or intellectualizing everything, being lost in concepts and explaining concepts. So just notice what is going on. And as much as possible without judgment, because it is an adaptation. It is something which we learned to do as a way to survive, as a way to give ourselves what was really needed for a child. So there is absolutely no reason for judgment, just noticing. And then bringing the attention to one specific situation that you remember when you were using one of your adaptations, and just see yourself there doing your thing. And see if you can ask yourself, what was I needing in that moment? What was it that I was trying to get? Or maybe I was trying not to lose something that I was afraid I would lose otherwise. Or was that a need for love? Was it like to be connected, to be seen, to be felt, to be gotten, to be the same, alike, so that we feel connected? Was that something of love? Or was it that you wanted to secure for yourself some freedom, some space to be yourself? Or you're afraid that a part of you will be disrespected, will be invaded? Or was it a need to feel good enough, to be good, to be just fine as I am, to avoid feeling less than or just simply not enough? And then see if you can let yourself be touched by that which you are missing in that moment, to feel happy, to feel joy, to feel relaxed in that relationship. Leaving aside the other person, leaving aside the adaptation, and just feeling, oh, I was needing love in that moment, or oh, I was needing space, or just to feel good about myself. Notice what feelings arise, what feeling arises as you get in touch with the need underneath. We are very sensitive, very vulnerable under our adaptation. It's our needs which really needed to be fulfilled when we were children. And they are valid needs also as adults. Just give yourself the space to feel it. And then gently, in your own pace, coming back in the space between us. Reconnecting with the breath, moving the body a little bit, maybe stretching, however, whatever you feel to do to let your energy come back. Yeah. Thank you for the trust. So we then grow up, and what happens in a relationship or when we get together with someone is that we bring in this hunger for what we didn't have as children. We really carry it within us, and we are not aware about this. And then we find a friend or a lover, somebody we resonate with, and we, out of this hunger, we dream this capacity of fulfilling our needs, all our needs, on this person. We don't fall in love with that person. We fall in love with the fantasy of that person. It's just what we all do. And for me, it's really touching to see that we do that, because it just speaks for sensitive we were as children, and how deep the hunger is. And then, because we believe that upon them, then we can feel trustful. We really open our hearts and we show ourselves, and we are so vulnerable, so delicious in those beginnings. And it's such a surprise, and it's so confusing when at some point something breaks. But what happens is that the person just is herself or himself, not this fantasy person. And they might just take some distance because they have a project and they need to work on something. And then we feel, oh, this person is not here for me, doesn't love me as I want. And then we bring our adaptation. And then what happens is that slowly, we bring our adaptations in the interaction. So I start manipulating, for example. And then he feels manipulated. He doesn't like it. He gets triggered in his own needs. Maybe he was emotionally blackmailed by his mother. And then he comes with aggression. This is just an example. So he brings his adaptation. And when he comes with the aggression, I might get scared, and I just start pleasing. And then when he sees me pleasing, he might enjoy it for a little while, but then he feels again that he feels like, oh, I don't have space because now she did so many things for me. Now I need to behave in a certain way. And then he comes back again with aggression, or with distance. He withdraws. And so this is what happens. And then these things just pile up. And all of a sudden we look around and we see nothing of what was in the beginning is there. It's more, there is distance, there is conflict. Sometimes there is boredom. When we this is when we kind of find a harmony, but it's a fake harmony. It's like, I am accommodating you and you're accommodating me, but nobody is authentic. And it looks harmonious from the outside, but actually we are just dying of boredom. So that's what can happen. And I want to say a little bit, just to make it be more clear, what it means now with these wounds. So love needs when they were wounded as children, so we got the abandonment wound. As an adult, I get triggered when the other person takes some distance. I don't tolerate disconnect for whatever reason. He might go to spend some time with his friends or with his hobby, and I get all panicky. Or, you know, he speaks on the phone while I talk with him, so I feel not heard. She disregards that I am in the room. I feel not seen. You know, these small moments. This is what happens in a relationship. Really small moments. She wakes up and she comes into the room and she doesn't say hello. When every day until then she did. Or he comes back from the office and comes in and doesn't give me a kiss. This is, for me, opens the abandonment wound. In my particular case, my personal case, when we were going to the mountains, and we are still going, but in the beginning, I didn't know that for Nidal, when we are in the mountains, he's introverted. All of a sudden, he just connects inside a lot. And I felt like completely left out. And for me, it was like for half a day, I was alone. And I felt like, oh God, I did something wrong. And our relationship is dying. And that's the abandonment wound being triggered. Just really small moments. Or when the other person is not like us. Like, I like a writer who is very important for me, and I speak to him and he's not touched by that. Or we look at the movie and I cry and he's not crying his eyes out. I'm like, we don't feel the same? Come on, I mean, like, we are not connected at this level. That's the abandonment wound coming in these small moments. And the story we tell ourselves is, I am not loved. So when we have when we have a wound, we come in with the hunger in the beginning, but then the alert bells are starting because we have a hunger for the need to be fulfilled, but also a fear that it will not happen. So, and with the invasion wound is like, I want to say this very clear. Invasion is invasion. If somebody is not respecting our time, our body, if somebody tells us you shouldn't think like this, or you shouldn't feel like this, or you should feel another way, it is an invasion. And it's absolutely okay, and in most cases it's absolutely necessary to say something, that this is not okay for us. Also, when the tasks in the family, in the household, are not fairly shared, that's also something to be discussed. It's an invasion of my energy because you assume that I have more energy than you. And so yes, but when we have an invasion wound, we are very triggered by that. So instead of sitting and having a calm discussion about it, we get all triggered, and we might scream at the other person, or we might punish the other person. We might manipulate. We might please. We think, oh, if I do all that he wants or all that she wants, then he will respect my time and my space and myself. The unworthiness shows up sometimes is because our partner says something like a criticism or an innuendo, like a subtle message that we are not okay as we are. And if we didn't have the unworthiness, we would just laugh it out. It would be like somebody would tell me that I'm blonde, and they would just say, but when I have an unworthiness wound inside, then especially about that topic, then it comes, the voice inside says, yeah, he's right. You are not feminine enough. You are talking too much. you are disorganized, you are too pushy, you are not enough assertive, and whatever the daily interactions bring up. So sometimes it's what they say. Sometimes it's really us reading through the lines, between the lines, because sometimes they just tell us what they need. And then we interpret like, oh, because he says he needs this and I didn't give it to him until now, that means that I'm wrong. Or sometimes there is nothing outside. I just, for me, I was also at the beginning of our relationship, we were driving throughout the country and I was sort of the co-pilot. He gave me this task for the first time, and I can't read maps. I am a maps dummy. I can't say it differently. But the thing is that I thought I should be. That was the problem. That a whole drama for a full day happened because of this. Because I didn't say that I can't read maps, and I was just trying that. So this was my adaptation, was to strive to make it. And of course I made a lot of mistakes because I was also so stressed. And we just got into this. For me, it was such a big. He was like, I don't understand why you're so upset. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we put the pressure on ourselves. It doesn't have to be anything from the other person. It just comes. Yeah. So now we come to the interesting part. I hope this was also interesting until now, but I feel like all that we talked about is really to come to this point where we look at this whole thing and we think, okay, what am I going to do now? This is the situation, but what am I going to do with this whole thing? And like I said, we start working on ourselves, and I saw this happening. We start working on ourselves and we discover that, oh, I have an abandonment wound because my father left when I was very little, or because my mother favored my brother. I have this. And then we turn to our partner and we say, I miss this. And please don't make me, you know that I went through this. Don't also abandon me. Don't go with your friends when I want you to be here and spend the night together. That is something which sometimes do. It's we weaponize ourselves with the wounds. And even if we don't, I mean, I saw this also because I read around, and I was surprised to see this also from relationship experts. Very insightful people, very informed, also living it in their own life. But when it comes to how to solve it, the solution is that we share with each other what we went through, and then we kind of protect each other's sensitivities. We call these sensitivities, that I get triggered when you break eye contact with me. That's my sensitivity, for example. Or I have a sensitivity if you don't respect my time. These are our sensitivities. Well, everything we talked about earlier, like our triggers, what triggers us. And so sometimes relationship experts, they say we should protect each other's sensitivities. But for me, that's it can be done for a while. In my experience, things blow up at some point. We can do this dance, but only until a point, because it's a sacrifice. If you love me, you should quit smoking. And he quit smoking, and then in 1 year, we are almost divorced. It's so the image which I really like, I read about it and to me it resonated so much. When we do that, is like giving my little child, my little girl, I'm giving it to him. I'm saying, take care of her. And he's doing the same. He's giving me his little boy. And then I am not an expert in his little boy. I really am not. And he is not an expert in my little girl. I am the expert in my little girl. And so for me, this is the biggest opportunity. It's like when we encounter these moments when we feel abandoned, invaded, or unworthy, is an invitation to reparent ourselves. It's reparenting. Yeah, I'm going to get now into this because I'd really like to get into each abandonment, invasion, and unworthiness. This is the last piece for today, but it's really important. Because reparenting is really doing something different for each of these. It means something different. But the common thing is we give ourselves what we didn't get as children from our parents in the specific situation. So, for example, I'm going to take this situation that I am in the mountains and Nidal, all of a sudden, he's in his own world. He doesn't speak to me. And I feel, the first thing is I feel panic. I feel fear, because that's what abandonment does in the first stage, is like, oh my God, I'm losing him. And for me, the most important tool is really to recognize in the moment, Radha, it's okay. It is the abandonment wound resurfacing. So it's not what he does. What you feel right now, the fear, the panic, is this old past pain coming up, and fear, and experience that just comes up. And it might feel unpleasant, and it does. You don't have to like it, but different from when you were a child, you can be with it. So when we are children, we don't have the capacity to be with unpleasant feelings. We need our parents to regulate us, to hold us, to soothe us. But as an adult, I have the capacity to hold this unpleasant feeling inside. So I'm walking, like next to Nidalia, I'm walking with him. And instead of trying to get his attention, which I was trying, I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm just like, oh, Radha, it feels so scary inside. Let me be with this. First of all, it's not now. It's not from now. It's from the past. It's okay. And then what I start feeling is the pain. It's also with the abandonment is the fear and then the pain. I feel the pain. And reparenting is really soothing ourselves. So with the abandonment wound is soothing myself. And we need to find our own way. But for me, for example, is to imagine that I am holding myself from within. And I'm just inside of myself, I am holding myself. And I'm like, it's okay. It's tough, it's painful, and it's okay. And if I am at home or somewhere where I actually hold myself. It's like I'm putting the arms around me and I hold myself. Because what happens is that sensitive little part inside of me is just young part inside of me. It's awakened. And another way is when we have a good connection with the inner child is to actually hold that inner child. You know, like I take a pillow and I just a fluffy pillow and I hold it in my arms, like I'm holding myself. And I am actually, I'm holding that little girl who, and it doesn't even matter if we have or not memories. Most of the abandonment happened when we were very, very young, and we don't even have memories of that. But the felt sense is the most important. That's where I put my attention. Oh, it feels painful. Oh, it feels heavy in the heart. That's another way, is when I feel, that's another way is to put the attention on the sensations in the body and to feel the heaviness in the heart. And again, like really holding that part inside, which feels so raw, so sensitive, so vulnerable. It's okay, I'm here, I'm here. And slowly, this is an experience which slowly brings us to a let go, to a release. Pain is also an emotion. It's just, it moves in the end. But to move, it needs our attention. It needs our awareness. Is that, how to say, does this resonate? Does it make sense? Maybe you even had such experiences. There is definitely, you know, this is a webinar, so just giving some, here I'm just sharing some glimpses, but every little skill, every skill that we are talking about, for me, this is a skill. To know how to be with the abandonment wound is a skill. In itself is the topic of a workshop, and then of practicing. And in that workshop, we usually go deeper into our story of abandonment. So each of us can look inside and look and know our story of abandonment, the ways in which we were not loved. And then when we are familiar with that story, then it's, I'm not saying it's completely easy, but it is much easier to recognize in the moment. So I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Yeah. With the invasion wound, it's funny because, like I said, it's when we get triggered. I got triggered a lot about being given advice, which I didn't ask for. And in that moment, if I didn't have a wound around it, I would just say, hey, I just wanted to share with you. It's okay. I don't need an advice right now. Can you listen to me? Is that okay? If not, it's clear. I don't need to be in the discussion. It can move on to something else. But in the beginning, I was not like this. I was so much triggered by this. And usually when we are triggered, what we do is we either push back. This is more what happens. Like we push back and we don't set a boundary. We rip the other person's head off. It's like, how do you dare to give me advice? Look at your life, and, you know, attack. Or we please, we submit, we okay, yeah, give me advice, yeah, sure, I'm listening, and then we build up resentment, and then we again end up jumping at the other person's throat just a week later. So when we look back at what was I needing when I was a child, whenever I was invaded, what do we see? What I would have needed. So what we needed actually as a child was protection. We would have needed another adult to step in for us and say, hey, don't treat this child like this. Or if we had the space, we would have needed ourselves to say, hey, don't do this to me. But we don't as children. So the main thing is protection. So what reparenting means to be that parent who stands up for ourselves, who comes, it's almost like, so I'm getting advice again and again and again. The person is standing in front of me, and I notice I'm becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. I'm obviously regressing into my little child who thinks he's helpless and there is no chance to do anything because something bad will happen. And I recognize this is an invasion, and then I need to find inside my protector. It's really like imagining we have a Superman inside or Superwoman who then stands in front of the little girl. So I'm standing here, my little girl is behind me. I am covering for her, I am protecting, and I'm talking to the person in front of me, and I say, hey, this is an advice which I didn't ask for. Please stop. I'm not saying it's easy, it's another skill. So like with any skill, it takes another workshop, like really,
coming up.
like, yeah, we can dive deep into this because it's really scary to take this position of the Superman. Because when we were children, we had what? We had aggression coming at us. If we were to say no, we would have had aggression. And the other thing, it would have been shame, guilt, because invasion also happened through emotional blackmail. It was like, don't be a good girl, don't upset mommy, don't be sad, you'll make mama depressed, don't scream around, don't jump around, don't laugh, don't play because daddy needs to sleep, you're not a good girl if you do that. So when we stand up for ourselves, or we try to, these feelings come up, either fear of aggression or guilt. And we need to know how to deal with this. But it's so, and there is not enough space now, but the movement is this. So the skill for this need and for this wound, the skill is setting boundaries. And setting boundaries is not something that comes naturally. Well, I sometimes see all these posts on Facebook, and sometimes even I post something like that. I have to admit, just set boundaries. Just start saying no. Really? Come on. Come on. It's an year's journey. And I think it's also a lifetime journey. Like there are still, even at the end of our life, there will be things which yeah, I mean, for me, for example, it took a long time to be able to say to someone, a friend, look, when you are talking for so long about negative things, I just feel so bad, so bad inside that I can't take it. Can we change the subject? Can we make it more positive? Because I felt like, oh, how could you do that? You're a friend. You should be there for all her negative. She can vent however, no matter how long she needs. And things like this, in the beginning, we don't even know, we don't even realize that we can do something about it. That's why we feel trapped, because it feels like, but what can I do? And when somebody says you can say no, it's like, really? In this situation? So yeah, okay, so just to make it short now, in a nutshell, with boundaries is first of all to recognize the situations which ask for no. And I have a list of this, and whenever I show it to people, they are shocked. Really? This? I can say no to this? Yes. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is to really to exercise, and it's good to have a friend or a partner in growth with whom to do a role play that we set boundaries, because fear and guilt come up and we need to learn how to deal with it and then do it in real life. I'm not saying it happens. That's reparenting for the invasion wound. And for the unworthiness wound, it's also a skill, because we need to become in time aware of the voice which goes up inside. So again, first of all, I need to see my adaptation. I see, oh, I'm attacking, I'm pleasing, okay, why am I doing this? Oh, because I think about myself, I am not this enough. Let's say I'm not feminine enough, or I'm not masculine enough. So I say this to myself. And as children, what happened was that we were receiving these messages from our parents at a time when our brain didn't have discernment. Our brain was not developed enough to question what they were saying. And we didn't have the life experience. So if they were saying you should be a kinder person, we took it at face value. So the big thing about unworthiness, it's to take this voice down on a paper, like really make it clear. The voice says, I am not feminine enough, and then to question it. And to question it, we say, is this true? Is this true like that? But really stay with the question. Or is it something that my parents put in my head? Or society or school? It doesn't always have to be the parents. Sometimes it can be even a spiritual teacher. What happens is we sometimes realize the message was simply not true. Like, for example, many people were told you're stupid. And just see, I was not stupid. I just had a different intelligence than the members of my family, the other members of my family. I didn't have an intellectual intelligence. I had a practical intelligence or an emotional intelligence. So sometimes it's not true. Sometimes it is not helpful. It's not helpful. It's not, no, it's not that, it's the implication is not true. It says, if you're not feminine, then you will not have a man, for example, or you cannot be successful. And then I question, is it true that if I am not feminine enough, I cannot have a man? No, there are men who like women who are both feminine and masculine, or, you know, and the love comes in that sometimes there is some truth in what the voice says. Like it says, you're an airhead. For a long time, I was an airhead. And I was so much judging myself for this, and it was coming up in the relationships. But then if we embrace that with love, we look at it and then we see, yes, Radha, you are an airhead because you had to space out when you were a child. And that's painful. And it was a way to adapt. It's a problem for you and for the people around you because you forget things. And we can work on it, but gently, and not by judging myself, pushing myself. So there are situations and situations also with the unworthiness. It's a skill. Like the skill is to deal with the inner judge. And again, another workshop. So these are, for me, these are the three essential skills in relationships, which they are coming from these three wounds. And once we get to the root of this, then we can really navigate through the day's challenges, and it can be so nice. I want to say why so nice. Now we come to why is this growthful for us? When I take care of the child now, it's really like a travel, like a time travel. It's like going back then and taking care of my little girl back then. It's exactly the same thing. So we heal, and we heal by taking care of ourselves in the relationship today more than we heal in a workshop, because it's embodied. It's in taking action. It's much more powerful. So the healing happens. As the healing happens with the abandonment wound, what we find inside is love for ourselves. We become full. We notice, we realize that we are our own source of happiness. We don't depend on the others. We are happy together, happy to share our energy, and so I don't compromise anymore. Then I don't take things personally. Then I don't shoot people down. So everything changes, not only in this relationship, but also in all my relationships. And so this is with the abandonment. With the invasion wound, you see, I heal abuse, humiliation, feeling captive. And what we get is strength and a self-respect, a sense of self-respect. And then we walk in different kind of situations in our life, and people don't even dare to invade us anymore, because they see it in our being. Something has changed on our face and in our energy, and they don't even go there with us. And also a sense of dignity, I would say, it comes when we set boundaries. And then the third one, with the unworthiness, what we gain by working with the inner judge is the sense of worthiness. We just feel, I deserve to be here. I am a unique human being with my own beautiful qualities. I have something to give, but I don't need to prove to anyone. I don't need to deserve anything. I have already everything inside. When we heal this unworthiness, we also become more loving, because we can allow ourselves to be generous. And also with the invasion is the same. If I know I can say no, then I can open to you endlessly. I can be vulnerable with you, because I know that if you step too far, I can say no. With the abandonment wound healed, it's also that I let the other person be. They can take some distance. They can smoke okay. There is another conversation we can have about smoking, but not that one. That I am your girlfriend and you should stop. So anyway, we let the other person just be. So we are more generous lovers. Okay.